This is Stephen James with the Stephen James Foundation, and I want to welcome you to Pink Fridays, a fundraiser benefiting the American Cancer Society. We call it a party with a purpose. We have an awesome lineup of local talent and national artists. So please get your tickets at www.pinkfridays2020.eventbrite.com. I'm Stephen James. I want to welcome you to Pink Fridays exclusively on ICTV.
Hello, hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to another fine episode of Woman to Woman with Joanne, the talk show. We are so excited today to have Miss Pauline Rogers of the Reach Foundation here with us, and she's going to tell us what the Reach Foundation is all about, and we're going to hear her story and just be inspired and encouraged and be enlightened by what she has to share with us on today. So join us. Hello, Miss Rogers.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
I've been thinking I got to get Miss Rogers on this show because we have to get her passion about what she's doing. So tell us, Miss Rogers, first and foremost, where were you born and raised?
Born in Pascagoula, Mississippi, on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Awesome.
Raised in a little rural town called Van Cleve.
Van Cleve.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of Van Cleve.
It's a little rural town down on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Awesome. So tell me about your family. You're married, got children. Talk to me about
I'm married, 30 years this year.
Awesome.
No birth children. I have a bonus son that's been in my life since he was a baby.
Awesome.
And 2 grandchildren.
Awesome. Oh, grandbabies.
2 grandbabies, yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, now, Miss Pauline, the reason I wanted you to come here because I wanted you to talk about your foundation. Tell us what REACH, R-E-C-H, stands for, and then tell us what inspired you to start the REACH Foundation in the first place.
REACH, R-E-C-H, are the acronyms we use for Reaching and Educating for Community Hope Foundation.
Okay.
We use the acronym, it's pronounced REACH. It's not an A in there, it's pronounced REACH.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know what we were doing. My experience, we just had to create a name because I kept running into roadblocks with getting help.
Right.
So that's where the name comes from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, with the REACH Foundation, what do you guys do?
We reach out, we do prison ministry.
Yes.
Well, we started off doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
But prison ministry is our focus. We are simply to help people that's impacted by crime and incarceration and get them to a place of being in a thriving and sustainable community that's inclusive of those who've been to prison.
Right.
Because right now there are big barriers and roadblocks to those coming out of prison.
Right.
And we want to see them thriving and sustained.
Awesome. So what type programs, how do you help the people that are coming out of prison now? What do you guys do?
What we do now, we have transitional housing. We have a 27-acre, 5 re-entry homes primarily for women. Okay. We are in the course right now of renovating one to house our first formal man. We've transitioned 2 men, but they were 2 men that my husband knew. My husband is formerly incarcerated.
Right.
He went to jail at the age of 14.
Wow.
Went to prison in Parchment at the age of 15 and got out when he was 31.
Wow.
And absolutely. So that experience and him and I combined 19 years of incarceration have taken our experience of what we live to try to put it under one compact umbrella of what that looks like and how do you help?
Right, exactly. So tell me, let's talk about your passion for prison reform. Tell us about the prison reform and tell us about Mississippi and prisons, the prisons in Mississippi. What do you know about the prisons in Mississippi since you guys have experience? I know you said your husband was in prison, but tell us your story too, because you were in prison for a minute yourself. So kind of talk with us about that, what you learned while you were in prison, and then what you've brought. Of course, the REACH Foundation has come from it, but tell us how you take your experiences and help the women who have gotten out of prison.
My inspiration for doing what I do, I was a church girl.
Church girl.
In rural Van Cleve, there was nothing to do other than go to church. There were plenty of churches.
Yes, ma'am.
My grandmother was a devout Christian and Sunday school teacher. So we had to listen to her study her lessons at home. Then we had to get it again when we got to church.
Yes.
And so that was, I mean, we could walk to church. And so my inspiration came from my structured traditional Baptist background of, you know, do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Right.
And so when I got to prison and lived the experience of what I lived, I ended up in prison.
Right.
After seeing a loved one be killed. My father was killed at the hands of my mother.
Wow.
I watched that. It was self-defense. But when you're a child and you witness something that horrific, you don't process reasoning. All you know is the incident that occurred.
Right.
So I was taught by my grandmother to always know that it's your responsibility to help with the younger sibling.
Right.
I took that literally. And would look in the local penny pincher, thrifty nickel, and look for the nearest funeral to get my family to, not to grieve with bereaved families, but to get to the repast.
Oh, wow.
And repast 40 years ago, you could easily leave with a whole cake, casserole, pan of bread, pie, you know, that. And I would take that food home.
Right.
And I did what my grandmother do. I would set the table. I would bless that food. I would pray. Deceptive, yes. It kept my family fed and kept us together.
Right.
Spiraled down, shoplifting in a local Sears and Roebuck store. That ended me, the first time I encountered jail was, you know, being taken from being arrested, petty theft. Because my degree of shoplifting before I went to prison was if you took the last glass of milk out of the refrigerator, the last piece of chicken, whatever, that was shoplifting. Oh, wow. So mine, you know, spiraled down, and I ended up with a 6-year sentence to Mississippi Department of Correction for shoplifting.
Right. And what prison were you? Were you at Central Mississippi Correctional Facility?
I was at Central Mississippi. It was under construction when I got sentenced.
Right.
So they just kept us, detained us in the county jail till they got that facility completed, rather than sending me to Parchman and then moving me from Parchman to that facility. So I was one of the ones that was there when they brought the first group of women from Parchman. Wow. There.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back with more Woman to Woman with Joanne.
Alabaster Box is a program that we have designed for women coming out of prison. We will provide housing, and in the house, they will be able to live there up to 2 years. And we are partnering with different organizations to provide different services to the ladies and to help them to get reacclimated into society, that it will lessen their chance for being repeat offenders, that will give them a leg up in life, and they will be able to go out into society and be productive citizens. And my motivation was that if we save a woman, then we can save a family.
Amen.
That's my motivation.
My name is Amika Coleman, and I am the founder and CEO of Strands of Faith. Strands of Faith is a faith-based hair and beauty lifestyle brand, and we focus on providing moisturizing products for dry hair textures. Our products are geared towards naturals who have dry textures and they need to replenish the moisture in their hair, so they offer a great moisture balance. And also for those naturals who want to grow their hair to long lengths, our products are great because they offer length retention. We currently have 9 products. 6 products are featured in our Holy Grail collection. That's our main collection that focuses on moisture. And then we have 3 additional products that were added later: a shampoo bar, a sealing oil, and a moisturizing styling custard. Our products are handmade in small batches, and we use quality ingredients. And our goal is to create our products to be as clean as possible, so we don't use harsh ingredients. And also, I test each product on my hair first before they're ever placed in the hands of the consumer. We pray over each of our products, and they're made with a ton of love and a lot of faith.
All right, Miss Pauline. So talk to us about your experience and what you learned when you were in prison, and you know what you brought back to your Reach Foundation, the experiences that you had.
I learned from being in prison that we have a false concept And we bought into a false narrative that if they go to prison, they'll learn a lesson.
Right.
That's not true.
Right.
People that go to prison are further traumatized than the childhood trauma or whatever trauma they experience when they go to prison.
Right.
And coming out, that trauma has to be dealt with.
Right.
And so I learned from a lived experience with people that were in there were just like me. And I've come to the realization that really prison is only changed when people experience firsthand what it's like to have someone incarcerated or be incarcerated themselves. So my mission in life constantly comes from those who are in prison with different lived experiences.
Right.
One example, just this week, I got a letter from a guy who reached out to us that's been in Mississippi prison over 50 calendar years.
Wow.
And so he was eligible for parole. He came up for parole in August. He said he got a year set off. Excited about that year. But the thing that got me was I sent him a birthday card. And I looked at the calendar to get his address, and I had the address, his birth date wrong. I missed it.
Oh,
and I thought, well, I'm going to send him a card anyway. We sent him the card. He wrote us back and said that he was shocked. He had not gotten a birthday card in over 40-something years.
wow.
And so those are the kind of experience that people leave prison
Right.
with, the trauma, stuff we never think about.
Right.
But the barriers that people experience coming out of prison, lack of housing, lack of employment, lack of a whole lot of things, is real.
Right.
And when people come from prison, the first thing people are concerned about is if they're going to have a job. That's really not the number one concern, is if they have a job.
Right.
They need mental help, healing,
Right.
mental health detoxing.
Right.
Oh, and we overlook that piece.
Yeah.
They go to prison, stay 40 years or whatever, and you come out, you want them to, flow in life.
Yes.
Just get in, flow in. But they've been verbally abused, some of them physically abused in prison. And when they come out, they're expected to go on with life like they've been living life.
Right. Like they've been out forever. And it's like they've been institutionalized. And so, and I know this is real life, but watching Shawshank Redemption and him saying how he'd been in prison since he was 13 or 14, got out at 60-something years old, and he couldn't even go to the bathroom without having permission. So what do you think about
life? That movie is reality.
Is it?
It's reality.
Yes.
Most people, whoever recorded that movie, may not have wanted to take the ownership
right.
of that reality, but that is every day somebody's reality when they leave prison.
Right.
The trauma is real.
Like so hard to try to follow along with it. It was like one guy who said he went in prison, and when he got out, they went in, they didn't have cars. And when he got out, they got all this stuff going on, and he just couldn't follow it, So, Miss Pauline, tell me about how the state deals with people who are in prison. Do you know about the food that they eat, or how they get their food? I know on Facebook it was a lot of stuff going on Facebook about the prisons, and I saw people with phones in prison just recording the way the prison were being run. Some of the ceiling was falling down, showing us the food that had bugs crawling in it. Do you know anything about that? How the food is, where they get the food, how it's prepared?
Contracted, state contract. We had a commissioner that went to prison, state contract. So you have people juggling for contract. We are, and I say we like I'm still incarcerated, because I will forever be formally incarcerated because I had the experience. So when I'm talking about them, I'm talking about myself.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's contracted. And whoever gets the best bid gets the contract. And so I want to see the elimination of contracts. If they're hired by the state, then the state should take care of the food needs and whatever other need. But you have these contract vendors that go in, and the meat in prison is called mystery meat. Because the objective for a contractor is not to come in and provide healthy meals. nutritionist meal. The objective is you go make money. This is your business.
Right.
So you got to make the best dollar for to get the best bang for your buck. And so in prison, the contractors go in, they have canteen where the inmate can buy food off the canteen if somebody puts money.
If they have money.
If they have money on their books. And if you don't, you don't get to make canteen. And that was a part of our learning experience. I go inside the prison as well. I'm a volunteer.
Yes, ma'am.
And some of the inmates would say, Miss Pauline, you got to help us. They charging us $16.50 for a tube of toothpaste. $350 for a 12x12 black and white television. Now I can get conned too. And I was like, okay, come on now, give it to me straight. I'm here to help, but whatever.
Right.
I investigated, and sure enough, it was true. I go to the
$16.
Absolutely.
Well, can family members send this stuff to their loved ones if they have?
You used to be allowed to. When I first got to Central Mississippi, you could get a box once a month from a family member. They stopped all of that because they were getting so much contraband. Well, contraband now is just as great, if not more than, when we were allowed to get boxes inside the prison.
Right.
So now the state have a contract where you can do boxes through ordering online, corrections commissary online, where you can order that stuff twice a year, I think it is.
Wow.
At the holiday. But if nobody's sending you money, you don't.
Right.
It's even with the sex issues in prison. Lesbianism, homosexuality is on the rise, not because that's the choice. Some of them become somebody else's sex slave to get taken care of for basic human needs.
Right.
Basic human needs is every basic human wants a decent meal.
Yes.
And if your decent meal, the best you can get, comes from the commissary, then you become somebody else's sex slave. And there's a term in prison called gay while you stay, or gay for the stay. Gay for the stay meaning I'm not gay in the free world, but I'm gay for the stay during my incarceration.
Wow.
And it's sad, but it's the sad reality.
Wow.
That we really need to look into a lot of the issues in corrections. Even like right now, we're in the middle of collecting toiletries for those who are incarcerated because it's the only time of year that the state will allow it to come. I inherited the work from a volunteer who used to do this work, who's dead and gone on.
Right.
And I was like, you know, it was so overwhelming because we're talking thousands of people.
Right.
And the Lord has so opened doors that we've been able to take care of every facility in the state with toiletries for Christmas, for the holiday. If somebody donates it, because the state issue is once a month. Where you get that one little tube, hotel size, I'm holding up fingers, tube of toothpaste that doesn't have an owner's name. It doesn't have Colgate, Crest, none of this is whatever. It just got on toothpaste.
Wow.
So you don't know who's the owner, who made this toothpaste. Where they get that toothpaste, maybe a roll of tissue, women, a pack of sanitary paper. Well, when you run out of that once a month state issue, you don't get it again. And so you have people fighting, stealing, or doing whatever just to get basic necessities.
Wow.
And because people don't go inside the prison, you feel like once your loved one is there, they're good, they're taken care of, I don't have to worry about them. That's not the case.
Right.
Abuse is high on the inside.
Right.
The officers will tell people, you know, your family members don't care about you. And for the most part, it's true. People in prison don't get letters from loved ones. So it's just a big system that makes billions of dollars off of the incarcerated population.
Right.
Mississippi #2 in the nation with mass incarceration.
Right. We will be right back with more of Woman to Woman with Joanne.
part of the ministry that I have is dealing with alcohol and drug addicts and volunteering at the Behavioral Health Center. So a lot of what I did as a volunteer and speaking to ladies about ladies that were coming out of jail were telling me that their biggest thing was they had no place to go when they got out. They had no place to live, that they could receive other services were offered to them, but they weren't able to go back to where they lived before they went to prison, and when they were coming out, that was their biggest hurdle, was not having a place to live.
So, Ms. Pauline, I want to talk a little bit about being institutionalized. How long does it take does it take a long time to be institutionalized? Talk with us about that and how inhumane maybe the prison system is.
Institutionalization takes place, to me, at the click of a handcuff, at the printing, stamping of the fingerprints. You become somebody else.
Right.
You're in a system, and the system says, finger, you go left, right, forward. I mean, I can go through the fingerprint process.
Wow.
So the institutionalization part starts then. When you go to prison through the classification part, that's another whole process separate from prison.
Wow.
It is the most degrading, dehumanizing piece that any human, every cavity of your body, your eyelids get pulled up, down, your nostrils, everywhere there's a cavity open where you could stick anything.
Wow.
You get searched. Doctors don't do what that process takes you through.
Wow.
So you become, and you have to take on a different type of mindset to even cope with what you just went through, or that experience. It is that degrading and dehumanizing. And with every person that's doing it, that kind of cavity search, it's different. If you run across somebody with pedophilia in them that may be getting paid to be your corrections officer, the experience is different. And there's nothing you can do about it. And sometimes you handcuff, nothing you can do about it. Your legs shackled, zero you can do about that. So when you go from that point to being taken to the classification unit, when I got checked in as an inmate, it was, I remember your number, and I do remember my number, was 66743. Everywhere you went, you had to identify yourself by that number.
Right.
And so you get these officers who tell you day in and day out who you are not. And you begin to believe and buy into the narrative that's spoken over you every day, because officers are not required to go through training how to treat people. It's bad that you need training, but when you go to prison, you learn people really do need to be trained how to treat people.
Wow.
Because if you didn't get that home training growing up, then whatever you didn't get or you did get, it goes with you wherever you go and how you treat people.
Right. Right.
So institutionalization is real.
Right.
And you need detoxing from that experience alone.
Exactly. So you were telling me about a mentor, a lady that you met in prison. Talk to me about her.
Wendy Hatcher.
Yes, ma'am.
Who I would give my life for.
Wow.
I would take COVID for her.
Wow.
That's how this lady impacted my life. She had no reason to be involved in prison ministry. She didn't have children that had been impacted by the system, nothing. She married a fleet soldier over in England when they used to take the fleets in, and she was intrigued by the gold braid on the white uniforms that the Navy soldiers wore. And so they got married, and she moved to Mississippi, became a volunteer at Parchman, and years later, she was the first state hired employee to work in as a female chaplain.
Oh, wow.
And
awesome.
the number, I was picked out of the way. I knew it was a divine setup by God, who I do give the credit for my being where I am today.
Yes, ma'am.
And when I got to prison, even before I met classification, when you go to prison, you're in a canary yellow jumpsuit. Everybody.
Yeah.
You stay in that canary yellow jumpsuit until you meet the classification board to determine your mental state, your emotional state, your intelligence level, or your life skills before you assign a job. Because I wanted to work. Well, I got picked by this lady because I was a church girl.
Right.
So you didn't have to be classified to go to church. So I went to church. And she picked me out of all the women that were there to work for her. And when I went with her, I gave her my number and I said it again. And she said, okay, I got your number, but what is your name? And at that moment, she asked me my name again. And just a few months into my incarceration, I had already started to take the mindset of being institutionalized because I knew I had to be there for 6 years.
Wow.
So you better get used to this.
Real quick.
And so I was trying to take it on. If you didn't, you got told quickly that it's not going to go well for you if you don't take it on.
Right.
And so I started to become who that number was until I ran into her. And this lady impacted my life by mentoring me, recognizing my birthday, all the things that made a person human.
Yes.
She bestowed it upon me.
Right.
And actually risked losing her job. When I got out of prison, I lived with this lady for 3 years before I got married.
Wow.
She could have lost her job because you don't fraternize with the prison population.
Right.
And so that's who this
That is
British
awesome.
woman was
That's awesome.
that impacted my life.
Yes, ma'am. And with a few more minutes, tell me about women being incarcerated in Mississippi. Let me read my question. Tell us the statistics of women in prison in Mississippi and the recidivism rate, and tell me why women, when they get released, why would they end up going back to prison?
Women are the largest incarcerated population in the state.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And African American women, girls of color, juvenile, is at an alarm 600 times more likely to be incarcerated. Just this past summer did some highlighting of that issue. But the recidivism rate and all of that, even among women, is high. The poor white women at one point were the largest population in the state than other population of prisoners that were there. And the stats are going higher with women. Now you would look at the quota with the men that are in there. We're talking about those with the revolving door. The men that are stationary are just there.
Right.
You know, stationary, not going in at the alarming rates of the women and girls. But the women of color are going up. The recidivism rate in this state, well, globally, is 44%.
Wow.
You're 44% more likely to be sent back to prison within 1 year based on the stats. I think we miss a lot of stats. I don't know how often the stats are done, but that's the rate. And then you got over 300-some thousand globally, women incarcerated is the highest number.
Wow.
And that's another whole issue.
Yes, ma'am. What would be some of the reasons that they would end up going back to prison?
Well, 43% of that reason says, I think it's like 18%, they catch new cases. But the largest percent of people that go back to prison is on a technical violation. Technical violations could stem from you can't go to Warren County because your PO officer say you have to stay in Hines County. And if you get caught in Warren County, you violate it. Or if you don't pay your parole supervision fee, that $55 a month, you're in violation.
Wow.
And some of the part of the state is schizophrenic in that it says you can't fraternize or have any dealings with people that have been formerly incarcerated. Now, I can live with you 3 years, 6 years, but have no dealings with you when you come out.
Right.
But yet, I can't go to communities where people live that don't have my experience. So it's some things we have to.
Wow.
That's the kind of. So you got the housing barrier.
Yes.
If you ban the box, if you check the box that you were formerly incarcerated, it can get you kicked out from getting an apartment or a house or transportation or a job. So you got all of these barriers that hinder you. That's another whole topic that could easily be another whole show with the barriers that people face when they come out of prison.
Right.
And some of it is even family barriers. You know, you got loved ones when you went in. You had your children taken away. Not that you were an abusive parent. The children get caught up in the system if another family member don't take on the children, or if you didn't have family to take the children.
Right. Right.
So we got a lot of work to do in our state with criminal justice
like
reform and mass incarceration.
Yes, ma'am. Talk to me a little bit about mass incarceration, then we're going to have to cut our visit short. There's so much that we can learn from this. Just a bit about mass incarceration. Then I want you to tell us how we can help the Reach organization, Reach Foundation, get these things for Christmas, the toiletries and things that y'all trying to do. So
Mississippi is #2 in the nation with mass incarceration. Per capita, if we did that, it would make us #1.
Wow.
So that means we pay more money to incarcerate somebody than we would pay for the education of somebody. And when they come out of prison, we don't have anything for them to go to when they come out. The state allows for them to have toiletries. They are allowing it, because I asked that question. With us being in the pandemic, they are going to allow it for them to have the toiletries for Christmas and for the children, the incarcerated children. That's what we do. But our organization, we have a website, RECH Foundation, MS, like Mississippi.org. That's RECH Foundation, MS.org.
Awesome.
But we're going to post a flyer where we want people to donate toiletries for the prisoners, and then we will have a date and location where we will reach out to children of prison. We give that gift on behalf of the incarcerated parent.
That's awesome.
To make it feel like they're doing something for their children. But they would if they could.
Definitely.
Nobody wants to be a deadbeat parent.
Right. Thank you so much, Ms. Pauline, for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, this has been wonderful. Thank you guys so much for joining us on today. And we look forward to seeing you again on another episode of Woman to Woman with Joanne. Bye.
I'm Pauline Rogers with the Reaching and Educating for Community Hope Foundation. Acronyms RECH. Our website is www.rechfoundationms.org. Our phone number is 601-918-2970. We're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And our email is RECH Pauline, PAULINE @gmail.com. Thank you.
If you would like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to sponsor an episode, please reach out to us. You can email us at joanne@womantowomanwithjoanne.com.